Hi there, how are you? I'm back from spring break. Whew! It was a long one. Had a extra week or two in there, so thought I'd get back to doing some book reading. And I was thinking about maybe reading some nonfiction, which I think would be pretty good and useful, especially since I want to be able to get some facts and some new information. Real quick, the goals for today's lesson here for week 1, session 2. I want to take a moment and just continue to discuss justice. It's a good goal, what that means. Along with learning 2 new strategies for reading nonfiction. And we'll talk about a useful, handy code at the end that we can get everybody set up on. So, what is justice? Students, it's the umbrella that sort of shapes our discussions here with our online e-learning, and it is complex. Now, I've had some time on my hands to be able to do some reading, so I grabbed one of these old things. It's called a dictionary. Remember, you don't want to start your essays this way. Don't say, oh, the dictionary says justice is blah, 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 blah. But sometimes it's nice to look up words and try to think about what they may mean. And when I looked at this book, came up with a couple interesting kernels and sparks of knowledge for me. Justice can be thought of as having a basis in fact, reason, fairness. We've all said at one time, that's not fair, right? Or why are they being treated that way and we're being treated this way? Or that's not fair, right? It's interesting to think about justice in terms of fairness. And a really interesting dictionary idea that justice can be something that's morally right, legally right, and merited, deserved. So, if you have any time on your hands, make sure that you check out what I think is actually not a bad movie the second time you watch it. The Justice League, right? A group that is rooted in reason and fairness. It tries to do things that are legally right, and especially things that are merited and deserved. So, that kind of wraps up our real brief discussion on justice. Let's move on here to our 2 nonfiction reading strategies. And just the world's quickest reminder, fiction is fake. Nonfiction is real. Well, what does that mean? Well, fiction tends to be more rooted in your imagination, something that you can think about, dream about. Nonfiction tends to be filled with facts, key details, information. Hopefully something that you would see more in a newspaper or a real credible online news source. The easiest reminder for you might be this, another movie you might have time to check out if you haven't seen it, Babe. Wow, what a great movie. Animals don't talk, so it's certainly something that we would consider to be fiction, rooted in our imagination. So strategy number 1 for how we should read nonfiction, again, stuff that's real, is to try to think about things that are important versus interesting. So how do you know? Right, for information to be considered a key detail, it has to be a detail that connects to the main idea that the author is presenting. In most nonfiction books, though, the author fills the pages with information that are important and they are key, and also information that is meant to wow, amaze, gross out, or otherwise just kind of keep you reading. So when we come across information in a nonfiction text, we want to think in our minds, is that important? Does it have meaning? Does it influence that main idea? Shout out to Mrs. Z talking about theme in week 1, session 1, right? That big main idea. Does it fall under that? Again, I keep using that word umbrella. Or is it interesting? Does it wow you? Does it amaze you? Does it gross you out? It's something that's in there just to kind of keep you reading. And our example that I kind of want to share is about Joan of Arc. Now, Joan of Arc was 15 when she led an army and pretty much took over a large landmass. So for my 15-year-old sophomores out there, think about that. When I think about what's important or interesting about Joan of Arc, something that was interesting was, she was sacrificed and accused of practicing witchcraft and burned at the stake. That's interesting. Might not necessarily be important, though, for reading a nonfiction text about Joan of Arc and sort of her leadership on the battlefield. So it's important to know. You want to try to check the fact. You want to think about your thoughts on the fact. Does it connect to the main idea? If it doesn't, remember, file it away as interesting, but not necessarily important. We always want to try to be able to explain how it connects to the main idea. So that's strategy number 1, important versus interesting. Strategy number 2, we really want to slow down for the numbers. Sometimes when we read nonfiction, we will need to switch our thinking from our reading brain to our math brain. Nonfiction authors include numbers to teach us about all kinds of things, including size, scale, distance, quantity, age, dates, and more. So some things to think about. How does that number help you understand the fact? How is the number being used? And how can you sketch out that number? How can you try to picture the number? So let's talk about the moon. I looked this up. It's 250,000 miles away. And it is the closest celestial body to planet Earth. Hey, that's where I live, planet Earth. What does that even mean, 250,000 miles away? Well, I know that the United States is about 4,000 miles long. I know that it takes me about 3 miles to get to Kopp's Frozen Custard. So it's not that close, right? I know that if I were to go around planet Earth, right, it would only be, I don't know, maybe 90, 100,000 miles. So really, if it's a 1/4, 250,000 miles away, it's really not like it's that close. It's just something to try to think about as we slow down for the numbers. Remember, you want to think about how a number is being used, what you picture in your mind, how does that number help you understand the fact, and what other things you know use that same number for size. So in my mind, I was trying to compare it to Kopp's Frozen Custard. I know the moon's not that close, right? So it's far away, far out there. Just as a quick review to recap, our 2 new strategies for reading nonfiction are parsing out things that are important versus maybe things that are just interesting. Again, we want to think about how it connects to the main idea. And yeah, you might be right that it's an interesting side fact, but is it really important, right? Or is it something that the author is putting in just to keep you reading? And we do want to slow down for the numbers. So what's next? Well, we're back to a useful, fun, I think teacher fun, it's really not that bad, I promise, website called www.commonlit.org. And there's a new code here for everybody. I'm going to leave this up here for extended time frame. It's D3ZDKG. So you will go to commonlit.org. You can log in if you already have a login, or if you're brand new, click I'm a new student, and you'll enter in that code. Also, we will have a real handy link to a couple of the things that you can pick out to read from Common Lit on our Google Classroom that is hoping to serve all of our sophomore English students. So let's take a second here, and if I could, I'd like to show you where you should go on Common Lit to, if you already have a class, right? If you already know that you've been working in it, know that you've used it, you like it. It's not amazing, but it's really not that bad, right? You go over here to this little drop-down arrow where it says User, okay, and you're going to click on My Account. Underneath the My Account tab, this is my teacher account, but underneath the My Account tab, you're going to see a code that's going to say Add a Class Code. So again, that's where you're going to want to type in D3ZDKG, and that will set you up right into our brand new English 10 Whitnall class, right? We're going to add some students right now. Nobody's in there. That's okay because nobody's told you about this yet, so that's all right. You have plenty of time to do this. And let me go ahead here and put that screen back up. Again, D3ZDKG. commonlit.org. Right now there should be, I think, 3 articles that you can choose from. You only have to read one. Just looking for you to read one. You pick out from those 3 things, what you would like to read. They all have something to do with justice. Justice. It's complex, I promise. Thank you guys very much for your time and attention today. Hang in there. Stay safe. I want to speak for all of your teachers and saying that we're really proud of all of the work that you're putting in, and we really look forward to seeing what's to come. Thank you again for all your effort.